did I mention in the preview pod that when I saw the chemtrails on the blue sky the day that I'd found out the EasyJet ground staff in Porto were on strike, and my holiday to Porto was basically cancelled. I was sitting there. The irony was that so many people had never seen the sky so awash with planes. We're on a bit of a flight path. I'd never seen the sky above our house so awash with aeroplanes. People obviously away in their holidays. Glasgow Airport doing a roaring trade, except for the one flight that I wanted. I wanted us to be on to going to Porto for my holidays because I had such a nice time when I went there to see Rangers drawing one each at Underground the 2005-2006 Champions League group stages. And I don't know if I mentioned the fact that the blue and white, the blue sky with the white chemtrails across it. Sorry, I'm not a QAnon nutcase that believes the chemtrails have been sent on purpose. But it reminded me of the Porto kit, the Porto strip, the blue and the white stripes. And that was the thing. It also reminds me of the Espanyol kit. No, I was saying that Gothenburg and Porto have both won the UEFA Cup / Europa League twice each in the blue and white stripes. Well, Espanyol have lost 2 UEFA Cup finals, both on penalties, and they obviously wear blue and white stripes as well. That was something that was. I've been watching Tinker Tailor. Do you watch Tinker Tailor? It's on BBC iPlayer still. The BBC TV adaptation. Is it 1979? Something around about then. It was on at Christmas. One of the perfect things for January. It feels like it was really perfect for January. I ended up just watching the whole lot of it right through every episode over the course of last weekend. It's quite. There's a timing. As I get older, I realise how seasonal things are. A lot of things are recorded over the Christmas period, thinking, yeah, that'll be good, I'll watch that. But I was too busy doing football podcasts that I didn't get the chance to watch them until January, and you're like, nah, the moment's gone. That's a Christmas thing. The moment's gone. I'm not going to hang on to it for a year. I'll delete that to create more space for more European football to record. But I think Tinker Tailor's absolutely perfect for January. There's the darkness to it, but it's also really sentimental because I was like 10 years old. I remember it being on the television, a big sensation. But I've subsequently been to the Thomas Alfredson film. I saw the Thomas Alfredson. That's one of the last things I ever saw at the cinema. And the fact that people were talking through it just sent me completely crazy. I can't handle that. The disrespect. It's a great film as well. Thomas Alfredson's interpretation of Tinker Tailor. But I've watched it so many times subsequently on the television, and I got the DVD, that kind of stuff, and just watched that nearly as many times as I've watched the TV adaptation. The two of them are kind of confusing themselves. I told you that I saw Gary Oldman live at York, the theatre in York, doing Crap's last tapes last year, and Gary Oldman and Alec Guinness, the two of them playing, doing that same thing that De Niro and Marlon Brando did when they played Vito Corleone. Everybody's expecting De Niro to do a young Brando impersonation when he's in Godfather 2 as Vito Corleone, but he played the character. They both played the same character. Obviously, they're completely different actors. It's supposed to be, De Niro's playing Vito Corleone at a different age. But watching Alfredson, watching Gary Oldman as George Smiley, he's George Smiley. Just the same way as Sir Alec Guinness is George Smiley. Sir Gary Oldman as George Smiley. The two of them play the character to perfection, but it's getting to the point where I'm mixing up various bits with the TV adaptation and the film, and I noticed watching the TV adaptation this time that he gets angry at different times. George rarely gets angry. He does get angry. The whole thing with George Smiley is he's super cool. He's really, really forensic in what he does. Everybody else does all the talking, and that's how they reveal themselves. This comment in the world of spies, etc. But what are you then, Bill? What are you then, Bill? When they find out who Bill Hayden, spoiler alert, when they find out Bill Hayden is the mole, and they've got him, and they've got him in the military prison, just like the military. It's an old military base before they hand him over in exchange with the Soviets. That's the one time George Smiley, this guy, obviously Bill Hayden, had an affair with George's wife, and although she had affairs with everybody, it wasn't really kind of particularly personal, but he was doing this as part of just muddying the waters to make it harder for George to suss out who the mole was. But when they've exposed him, they know who it is, and he's just, I'm not, what is it? He says, I'm not his office boy or something like that. Talking about Carla, head of the Moscow. You've seen it, the head of the Moscow Centre. And he says, well, what are you then, Bill? Gary Oldman, that's the one time he loses his temper, and it's brilliant. It's fantastic because he's been playing it so low key for the whole film. But the TV version, I think I saw it last year as well. I probably watched the TV version again, total comfort viewing. And I'm expecting Alec Guinness to do that bit, but he doesn't lose his temper with him at all at that point in the film, right at the end before Bill's killed. And Bill Hayden, the way he's killed in the Thomas Alfredson film, he gets shot through the eye by his best mate and former lover, Jim Predo, who kind of shoots him. It's all very sad. I think it's mid-70s, the Alfredson one, but it's late 70s, the BBC interpretation. Of course, it's all based on stuff that happened in the 40s and 50s now with the Burgess and McLean and all that kind of stuff. But he shoots him through the eye. In that one, it's Mark Strong shooting Colin Firth through the eye. But Ian Bannon as Jim Predo killing is Ian Urquhart, the fella's name. Oh, fantastic. House of Cards, the original. He's tremendous. Killing him, he does it with a kind of karate chop. It's like the second or third time I watched the TV series, I thought it was a bit cheesy. It's this kind of karate chop, and it hits the ground, and he's kind of writhing about, and then that's him. He's dead. It's a bit theatrical, a bit lovely, a bit OTT. But I saw it Christmas there, or just New Year, and I'm thinking, no, that's great. He actually does really well because these guys had the moves. They're operatives behind enemy lines. Jim Predo gets shot in the Czechoslovak border in the TV version, but he actually it's Budapest. It's in Budapest Town Centre it's on the Austrian border. It's Sturm Graz, Budapest, Ferencváros. It's in the Budapest and the Thomas Alfredson version, but it's actually quite good because Ian Urquhart really jerks his neck when he's lying on the deck after he's been killed. But it's a kind of slow hit, a proper operative dark arts sort of move, and his neck does look like it's been totally broken, like he's been hung as he lies there on the ground. It chops and changes, but it's how you interpret it. But it's really Hywell Bennett or Tom Hardy, the two of them, the different ways they play Ricky Tarr, and the affair with Irina, who's a Russian agent who wants to come over. She's got the secret about the circus. It's just I can only speak to Alaline. I must speak to Percy. There are four of them. And Alaline, Toby Jones playing Alaline with his daft Scottish accent. That's no too good in the Alfredson film, but it's just there's a bit, my favourite line, and that's why you should never. It kind of proves to you, especially in this world of Rangers and Celtic that we live in, that you should never get too carried away. You should never get too fundamentalist. It's when he's talking about when he met Carla. George Smiley's talking when he met Carla, and it's after him and Peter Gwilym, young Peter Gwilym, played by Benedict Cumberbatch in the film, and it says Peter Jaston, the actor's name, who plays him brilliantly in the TV series. They go for a meal. Alec Guinness and Peter Jaston go for a meal and have a glass of wine, and they're just talking. Alec Guinness starts talking about the time he'd met Carla. He met the top guy at the KGB. He met him once back in the day, and it didn't go too well. Where he should have made him defect, but he couldn't quite do it. But in the film, in Alfredson film, they're actually at control. Their boss who's just died, that it controls Old Flat. I've got more information on that as well. That flat where it is, I think it's a location that's been used by the BBC in a few different dramas. Howard's End did the dramatisation, the serialisation of Howard's End. But they control Flat, and then they've been working so hard. Let's have a drink, and they crack open a bottle of whiskey or something like that, and the two of them get slightly pissed. You have a kind of recreation of the moment where it's Patrick Stewart playing Carla. The recreation of the moment where he met Carla in it's Carla, isn't it? Carla. I've met the guy that's the head of the KGB. Where he meets him back in Delhi or something like that, in India. Back in the day, Alec Guinness has got to kind of get a hairpiece on, so he looks younger and all that. But in the film, Gary Oldman just sits there and just talks to an empty chair, like he's recreating the moment because he's a wee bit pissed. And it's obviously that within itself is a play on everybody's knowledge, presumed knowledge of the TV series, the same scene in the TV series. But he's chatting away to Peter Gwilym, and just the end of it, played by Benedict Cumberbatch in the film, and Gary Oldman says to him, and that's how I know we'll beat him. It's how, because he's a fanatic. And fanatics have always got a final, and they've always got a weakness. But it's in the TV one, Peter Jaston, he's like, oh, well, basically we'll never beat Carla. And Alec Guinness loses his temper then. He's losing his temper at that moment. Of course we'll beat him. He's a fanatic, and fanatics have always got, because he's really insulted at the idea of, he's very quiet and very slow and very methodical, and his wife's doing the run around and that kind of thing. But he's got a limit. Anybody badmouths the British spirit or something like that, he just listens. You just get a wee sense of what it is that George loves about his country, and it's tolerance above all else. So these are the kind of things, and I just think, I'm getting the text mixed up. I'm getting the film and that mixed up. I don't know what scenes and what adaptation, and what I should really do is just go back to the source material. What's the different? Because a lot of Rangers fans, it's all about the league, it's all about the domestic stuff. You got to win that, But I'm loving the European stuff, and it's like, Connie Sachs, played by Beryl Reid in the TV series and played by Kathy Burke in the film. And the Englishman could be proud then, George. And Gary Oldman says to her, "It was the war, Connie," because she's talking about the war. She's talking about the Second World War. When it wasn't spies, as far as she's concerned, the Second World War was an honest war. You knew who your enemy was, and you fought each other on a kind of honest battlefield. Whereas this Cold War stuff, it's all spies and tradecraft and counterintelligence and try to turn spies. But are they maybe doing the double? She doesn't like all that kind of stuff. And I think about that compared to now, us these days, where you think, well, that was actually pretty straightforward. There's a big Iron Curtain, the Cold War, big Iron Curtain. There was a Warsaw Pact, there was NATO, and it's like, that's the bad guys on that side, and we'll stay on this side. It seems quite straightforward compared to this world just now, where you've got, fascists living next door to, leftists and that kind of thing, and no particular ethnic group within a street, or different ethnic groups, and then you could have suicide bombers, of any kind of hue, white supremacists, killing folk and stuff like that, and different ethnic groups, and all the people within those ethnic groups, all different people within those ethnic groups are actually quite happy to get on with everybody else, and there's people within those ethnic groups, including white folk in an ethnic group, they hate everybody else, and they want to kill everybody else. It's just really, it's even more confusing now, and it's all about the internet as well, and people, that goes into everybody's house. It's really much more confusing now, like, is that a Celtic fan? That's 12 minutes. The Celtic fans love packed. They're celebrating the night, aren't they? But the whole thing, it's a bit confusing, the whole thing for Connie and the war. She felt it was a simpler time, but it's Gary Oldman says it was the war, Connie, whereas Alec Guinness just walks out. But this beautiful thing about Beryl Reid, Kathy Burke is just one of the greatest actresses of all time. She's sensational, and she does it through acting. But Beryl Reid in the role of Connie Sachs, which makes you think about Connie Booth and Andrew Sachs. There's a Faulty Towers thing. Well, really, really English stuff going on here. But Beryl Reid her hands are riven by arthritis. They're like sealed together, almost her fingers. She's just got two kind of fists, two knuckles, and she's picking up a whiskey glass. George brings her some whiskey to get her to talk about the old days, and she just has to squeeze in between the two knuckles there. But her eyes are just beautiful. She's got this little pixie nose as well. So it's like the old age defined by her hands, but you can see why she was a beautiful woman, still is obviously a beautiful woman. You can see the fun in her eyes because she's a fun-loving person, deeply sentimental, and her and George obviously had a bit of an affair back in the day, and you can see that in her eyes, and it's almost like the contrast between the kind of heartwarming past that she clings to, she cleaves to, but also the desolation and the ignominy of being sacked from the circus, from the intelligence services, and knowing that she probably had the dirty done on her because there is a traitor in the midst. And she said, "If it's bad, George, don't come back. I want to remember my lovely boys as they were." And it's beautiful stuff. It's beautiful stuff. And I just, if it's bad, Gers, don't come back. I want to remember our European Europa League nights as they were. It's all we have now. The Scottish Cup. You go back to the source. You go back to the book. And I've read Tinker Tailor, the book, and I read it after I saw the TV series and before I first saw the Alfredson film. I've heard the radio play as well. All I need to do is just go and see a Tinker Tailor, the stage play, and I've completed the set. But you go back to that to find out what's the essence of this story, of this tale. And with Rangers, for Connie, it was going back to the war years. Everything was simpler. And for us, it's going back to the Scottish Cup in the league title. That's all you had pre-war. The League Cup was a post. It was invented during the war and became the League Cup just after the Second World War. And European club competition was only enabled by peace breaking out in Europe and also air travel and stuff like that as well. But that was the 50s, the mid-50s, like 10 years later. We got the start of European club competition as we currently know it, but now we're going back to the source material. All we've got now at Rangers is the League Cup, the League and the Scottish Cup. The League, I mean, the Premiership trophy is the youngest of the three major trophies in Scotland, but that's just about the league title. Fighting to be league champions of Scotland has been going on since the 1890s, and the Scottish Cup has been going on even longer in Scotland, and that's all we have now. And it's what a nice coincidence, that cosy sentimentality of winning leagues and Scottish Cup suits the Rangers support right now. We've been really kind of fostering that, like watching television in January over the last 4 or 5 years, and for most of practically all of the 2020s and back into the 2010s, since we were in the lower leagues. It's all about winning the league. It's all about winning the league. And European competition, we should never forget that we love playing in Europe. But it's kind of a nice coincidence that the two trophies that we are now vying for, the only two trophies available to us now, are twice as much as most Rangers supporters want. They just want to win the league. We just want to win. It's a very particular type of kind of rationing we've been going through as a support. I've been fighting against it, but it seems that the riches of European club competition are almost like a spivs kind of con job, and the gents in a railway station, guy trying to sell you nylon tights and bars of chocolate, off the books. But Europe's real. It's a really good thing. Europe's where it's at, and where it's headed. In our day, all you had to do to get domestic glory, my generation, guys, I've been growing up, I'm in my 50s now, mid-50s, but just finish above Celtic and you're going to be Scottish champions. Now you get no recognition for winning anything but Scottish domestic medals. That's the way it's been. But now suddenly Hearts and Motherwell are challenging for the title. St Mirren have won the League Cup, and Celtic are the last Scottish club in Europe, and they're under the management of the last manager to get them past a post-group stage knockout round. So suddenly European club competition will be the thing. That'll be the thing they're supposed to be doing well in. Just at the time that we go out of it, when we're in European club competition, it's been crap. It's been the sign of losers if you go far in Europe. It's about winning. It's about winning the league. It's about winning the Scottish Cup, and I think a lot of Rangers supporters have bought into that. I don't really know the point I'm trying to make. Hello, Ricky. I like it's the bit where Ricky Tarr in the film, Elfriedson film, it's Tom Hardy. He breaks into George Smiley's house. That's where he comes back in from the cold, kind of the spy who came in from the cold. He breaks into his, and George, being an old hand at the game himself, he walks into his house and he notices he's got the little things in the door that, Ricky Tarr puts them in the door when he breaks into the Russian spy's hotel room in Tinker Tailor. But anyway, so he notices them. Gary Oldman, and he just walks in and he's like, somebody said I drink my whiskey, I think there's somebody upstairs, and he susses out who it. Hello, Ricky, and I'm thinking, I can't wait to hear Alec Guinness doing that, but doesn't he do it? It's a different thing on the way they come across Ricky Tarr. Ricky Tarr goes to somebody else's house in the TV version, but it's different. It's you're contrasting. It's the Europe we love, European competition, the way we love the TV. The way we loved the film, maybe because it's later. The film and we loved domestic competition. The way we loved the TV series. It's the old cosy kind of feel good stuff. And like Connie loving the Second World War. The way Celtic fans, they'll switched after. They're not that interested just now anyway, Celtic fans. It's not like this is a major defeat for Rangers. Certainly, this whole European season's been a major defeat. And it's the whole thing about being out of Europe, that's antithetical cheering, being happy in some sort of way. And I'm happy that it's over myself, and it's been such a terrible European season. Even somebody like myself is always focused on European club competition. I'm kind of happy. Rangers, it's antithetical to everything I believe. But it's a funny line, and this is a racket built on funny lines. It was seeing Pepe playing for Porto tonight. It's just the name Pepe, and I'm thinking, is he called Pep as opposed to Pepe? Like Pepe was such a legend at Porto, and he actually naturalised. He became a Portuguese citizen despite being born in Brazil, and he only just retired, was it 18 months ago or something like that. Pepe stopped playing for Porto. He was back there playing in his mid-50s for them. So if Pepe, who's an actual Brazilian, the winger that was tearing us to pieces tonight, he's went Pep to try and change it up. And it was spelled exactly the same way, but I just kept thinking about Eddie Pepitone. Eddie Pepitone, and I look like Eddie Pepitone, and he's the famous kind of New York comedian, and I just the one benefit of us getting ripped to pieces tonight by Porto in that first half period was I just kept thinking about Eddie Pepitone. I've got one follower on Twitter and he wants to kill me. And it's just stuff like that was coming to me all night. He just changed it to Pep to me. It's a bit like Mazzola, Jose Altafini. Jose Altafini scored 14 goals in the 1962-63 European Cup, and he scored 2 goals in the final when Milan beat Benfica 2-1. Benfica had gone for 3 in a row because the only other team that won the European Cup at that point was Real Madrid, the first 5 in a row, and I think Benfica thought they were going to do the same. And they certainly got to 5 finals in the 60s, but they lost the latter 3, having won the first 2. But the first time they lost, it was Milan, AC Milan becoming the third club, only the third club ever to win the European Cup, and it was Jose Altafini. But he was Brazilian that was naturalised. He's playing in Italy, so obviously, as happened in the day, he started playing for the Italian national team. Not a bad background. He is playing for Milan, and he scores 2 goals in the final to win the European Cup. It was his 14th goal, and that was the most that anybody had scored in a single edition of any European competition until John Work, Blue Nose John Work, scored 14 goals for Ipswich in the 1980-81 UEFA Cup. Have we get rid of the Celtic fans? I don't think so. But think about Jose. He was known as Mazzola, and that was his nickname, Mazzola. But of course, you'd Sandro Mazzola. I think he'd probably named after Valentino Mazzola, who was Sandro Mazzola's dad. Valentino Mazzola, who died in the Superga air crash playing for Torino after they'd played Benfica in a glamour friendly at the Estadio Nacional in Lisbon. So of course, when Sandro Mazzola scores a penalty against Celtic in the 1967 European Cup final, he's scoring at the ground where his dad played his last game of football before dying. He's got a brother as well, hasn't he, Sandro Mazzola? I'm not confusing him with the Barreses. Anyway. He plays for Inter Valentinian, so I think Mazzola was probably, Jose Altafini was probably named up, but he changed his name. He changed his name because he's playing for Milan, Jose Altafini Mazzola. Well, Sandro Mazzola is playing for Inter, and playing in the same bloody stadium, the old San Siro. It's going to be going soon, but I'll change the name, but it's Sandro Mazzola. The following season, Sandro Mazzola scores 2 goals in the European Cup final. It's in Vienna, this one. That was in Wembley in 63, 64. It's in Vienna. And they beat Real Madrid 3-1. Or 3-1 they beat them, but it's not 2-1, the same as... But it's a guy who has been called Mazzola, scoring 2 goals in the final of the European Cup to win it the first time for a Milan club against one of the 2 clubs who had only been the only winners from outside Milan of the European Cup before. It's a kind of confusing, it's a long drawn out, but I'm trying to waste time, and I will not surrender my European club football trivia stats. Sotto voce as the elevator doors close. Just go up to the only other person in the elevator and say, I hate myself. In a corporate elevator. I'm doing more Eddie Pepitone. You might recognise it. I don't know. I lie to my therapist because I want to fuck her. That's the one place you're supposed to be honest, Eddie. It's good stuff. I like Eddie Pepitone. Obviously, I'm not delivering it properly. I'm trying to cheer myself up after a bad night for Rangers. I'm so technophobic. I had to reverse the background. I've got this back to front. You'll notice the stuff at the background's back to front, just to make sure. It's the only way I can make sure that the video's in sync. I've had... If you don't know the band Instinct, I've had a really bad time technically with the camera and all that, and it's been out of sync for like 3 or 4 videos, the last 3 or 4 videos, really badly out of sync. The stuff I'm saying and the rate my fat mouth is moving on camera, so I know that irritates some people. I don't know why MD wants to watch my face, but if you're watching this instead of just listening to it, well, I've reversed that to give you a break while I sort out the long-term problem. But it meant that level of technological ineptitude meant that I was really struggling tonight. I was panicking. Let's be honest, I was having a panic attack. I thought, how am I going to see the game? Because I just went, I've got all the packages, I'll keep buying all the packages, and it's costing a fortune. They've started having European games on Amazon Prime, and we've got Sky Sports, obviously, this Premier Sports for League Cup, Scottish Cup, and now the odd league game. Right, finally managed to get my head around that. And of course, TNT, which used to be whatever it was, what used to be called? how quickly we move on. It used to be called something else, but TNT, you've got all the and there's like 4 channels to it. And I had noticed, I have to be honest, I'm saying Discovery Plus this, Discovery Plus that. And I'm thinking, what is Discovery Plus? No, it can't be. We must be on the main channels. And then I was flicking through last night because I like to record ahead of time. I must remember to record the game so I can watch it back. I can't watch it back because it wasn't on the actual telly. It was on the red button, but it didn't bring up when you hit the red button tonight. I thought we're not on one of the first 4 channels because we're obviously out. The British team, we're out. We're just playing for pride or whatever. So they've got the Celtic game and Aston Villa, whatever it is. The other games on the first 4 that you can just go straight onto the channel via your remote control, sitting on the sofa watching. They kept talking about this, and I don't think they ever actually specified press the red button. It's going to be on. I think they kept calling it TNT4. Was that TNT4? So I would go on to the other 5 or 6 channels that are on the red button, but they weren't populated except somebody playing snooker. They weren't populated with any, not even a logo or something saying what game was going to be on that red button channel. So I started thinking, I've got to get access to this Google Plus thing, so this Discovery Plus. And there is Discovery channels, of course, on your, if you've got, that's Virgin Media, I'm thinking, is it them? Something about elephants? Have they taken the... I don't know what's happening here, but eventually, because they don't have they can't afford to have a presentation team and all that for... So they don't come on, the red button channels, until like 1:45. But at that point, I'm having a nervous breakdown trying to work out how to access Discovery Plus. I'm not very clever at these. I'm not very good at these things. But so that was an omen. That was a bad start. That's 26 minutes. Sorry for it's the last European pod of the season. And it's another defeat for Rangers. After the old tradition of trying to pit off the Celtic fans with the boringness, I'm just pitting off everybody really by dragging this out. So welcome to your Fat Egg immediate post. This time last year, we were the ones snatching a Europa League top 8 berth on match day 8. It tells you in big 6-foot letters in the TNT, AI studio. It's just completely get CGI, whatever it is. It's obviously talking to a green screen, but they're standing there, the 2 of them, the presenter and some ex-pro. It's no Alan McQuist. And they're standing there, this big 8-foot. This is 8, match day 8. So it tells you that in the big... It was match day 8 of the Europa League group stages. And we got into a top 8 berth, finished 8th place with Queen's Park coming up in the 5th round of the Scottish Cup. Remember that? So hopefully this time, at least when we're finishing 32nd, we're finishing 5th bottom, closer to the bottom of the Europa League group stage 36 team table than we finished close to the top last season. But hopefully this time it means we're definitely beating Queen's Park in the 5th round of the Scottish Cup. There'll be a big massive 6-foot, 8-foot 8 up on the Jumbotron screens at full time against after the game against Queen's Park. Hopefully not, because we've beaten them 8-7 on penalties, but Rangers are out of Europe. Reaction pod coming to you in association with Gersnet. Check out Gersnet this Friday. It's I think it's Ben and Stuart. So it'll be tonight, basically, by the time you see this. Tonight, check it. It'll be live at 9 p.m. the Gersnet YouTube channel, and the 2 lads are always very, very good. Don't envy the task what they've got to discuss here. I'm sponsored by Gersnet, and I'm sponsored by Rangers getting back into the Champions League, because quite frankly that's the only way I'm going to find the Champions League in any way bearable to watch. I love my European stats, I love my European competition and all that, but TNT having so much of the coverage, it's no much, and it's the same commentators and pundits that are doing the rounds, and they're all freelancing, so they're on everything. You can't really get away from them, and it's unbearable, this dumbing down, this trying to sell. It is incredible, but I've got to the stage, there's incredible stuff, incredible football played in this competition. It's the best club competition in the world, no doubt about it, but I haven't even watched the game. You get that thing when you record, I certainly do, all the 35-minute highlights of all the games that are played, in case there's a really good game. So I've just kept the one for Benfica against Real Madrid, and I've seen the goalkeeper scoring the goal, because it's been shown a million times all over the place. You can't leave the house just now with it. That goalkeeper scoring the goal. But this whole thing where Ali McCoist and Stevie G. Stephen Gerrard was in there, wasn't he? He was in that studio, wasn't he, when they were going crazy, and Joe Cole and all that. Oh, they were going absolutely nuts watching it, and it was amazing. Oh, we've got this footage of everybody behind the scenes, seeing when the goal was scored and all that. I mean, It's a goalkeeper going up into the box. It's quite an amazing thing, but you've killed it by the overkill. I mean, Jose Mourinho hugged the ball boy. He does that all the time. But it's a big 6 foot, 7 foot guy going up into a box of a team that's gone down to 9 men. And they're launching the ball in there, there's a good chance he's going to get in the end of it, and their defence is kind of all at sea because they're a bit nonplussed by the whole. Even if it is Real Madrid, they're particularly huffy these days, Real Madrid, so they're 40 pieces quite readily. I mean, it was good, but I mean, Jimmy Glass, the bottom end of the game, that was proper. We're used to goalkeepers scoring these kind of goals. I mean, Manchester United on that long running unbeaten European home record. And was it Rotor Volgograd they were playing in? I think they were going out on aggregate anyway of the UEFA Cup or something like that. But they're going to lose their unbeaten home record, the famous unbeaten home records in Europe. They hadn't lost since the inception of European club competition. It means a big thing at Old Trafford. And Peter Schmeichel goes up and he equalises, so at least they don't lose the home record. This happens all the time. Peter Schmeichel used to score all the time in opposition boxes. It's not that, but this way of selling it. You're like Stephen fucking Gerrard sitting there. You feel like Stevie G be going, what are we getting all excited about? Did you ever watch the 2005 Champions League final? The actual final, there was a team of 3-0 down at half time, and I came out in the second half. I'm like, right, let's get this turned round. And within 20 minutes, I'd done it. 5 minutes, 10 minutes. It was 3 each that went to penalties. No, that's proper. Ali McCoy scored after 27 seconds against Celtic into the Celtic end at Parkhead in his first Old Firm game 15 years later. He scores his 27th Old Firm goal into the Rangers end at Parkhead as we beat Celtic 2-1 in the Scottish Cup semi-final. He's like, he's trying to tell Ali McCoy, what's the first guy to win back-to-back golden boots, even though it wasn't completely official, and they're supposed to be amazed by a big guy going up into the box and heading the ball into it's just the overkill. The Champions League final last season, and nobody mentions the fact that PSG and Man City, where they get their fucking money from, is absolutely disgusting. But it was PSG putting on the greatest ever display, the most dominant display ever in the final of the European Cup of the Champions League. No team's ever won it by 5 clear goals. And it was ruined by the fight between the pundits to see who could come up with the most kind of, I'm loving this. I mean, like Rio Ferdinand's won the Champions League. He's not loving it that much. It's not that, it's the great, look at his face. He's really happy because he scored the goal and he's quite young. Who cares? Do you know what I mean? We care, but just commentating the game, this fake kind of stuff that's really... My name's Alec Anderson. Don't start that talking. I could talk all night. My mind was sleepwalking while I'm putting the world to right. Call careers information. Have you got yourself an occupation? Arch. My name's Alec Anderson, and I'm here to... talk to you immediately after Rangers lost their 6th match in this season's UEFA Europa League group stage, but also their 6th match away from home in European club competition this season. We played 14 games in European club competition this season, if you include the 3 rounds of qualifying for the Champions League that we took part in, and we have lost 9 of those games, drew 2 and won 3. Absolutely abysmal. I suppose that whole thing, we lost by 3-1 against Porto and Do Dragao in match day 8. We're already out of the competition. We knew that, but we end it with a mere 4 points. People saying before the game, myself included, bite your hand after a draw. So only losing 3-1 when we were clearly rotating the team and all that. I don't know if that is, I'd lick your hand, I'd suck a finger, whatever, for a draw. I don't know what's involved there, but it wasn't very pleasant, although I don't think any long-term damage would be done. The team tonight, John Shooter was on the bench, so yeah, Tav at centre half. I was saying last night, what was I saying? I thought Tav would play. If John Shooter wasn't playing, Tav would go in to make 3. I knew we'd go with the 3 centre halves. I guessed we'd go with 3 centre halves. I thought we'd have ultimately the 5-man defence to fall back on against such a strong opponent at home. And of course, Porto were chasing a place in the top 8. They started the night in 9th place, so they really had to win the game. I thought we would go with a strong defence, but I wasn't sure how much. I thought maybe go with a stronger team, and if John Suter was available, he would start the game. And besides Giga, and Fernandes, and that would let Tav play it right back, 'cause I don't know if Aaron's. But Max Aarons had a good game last week in a 4-man defence against Ludogorets at home, albeit in Ludogorets nowhere near as good as Porto, obviously. But it was good. He's definitely improving as well, Max Aarons. So I was wondering what was happening tonight with the changes. The fact that Finlay Curtis was in the team as well I think that was the one that really confirmed. Asgard's on the bench. I think Asgard's coming onto a game, and I think the head coach likes him. Finlay Curtis is supposed to be heading to Kilmarnock. We're constantly told that he was starting tonight, and lots of Rangers supporters really quite happy about that. But that seemed to be a little nod towards the fact that we're just rotating tonight. We're not going to put it. But we still had. We went with the 4-3-3. Sorry, 3-4-3 nominally. And James Tavernier moved in to centre half. John Souttar remained on the bench, just back from a couple of weeks out injured. We had Nasser Giga and Manny Fernandes alongside Tav at centre half. Super Jack Butland in goals. Max Aarons playing at right wing back, and Jaden Magoma at left wing back. You had Nico Raskin and Diamande as a sitting two midfielders, and up front, or the front three, playing quite close together because your wing backs giving a bit of width, bit overlapping a bit. You had JD GASSAMA on his favoured left hand side, and Youssef Chermiti back from illness, or was he back from talks with Fenerbahce? I think he's back from illness. He's starting in his homeland, basically centre forward, and the other side of him, the right hand side, you had young Finlay Curtis. So, I don't know. One big obvious concession, I think, to Easter Road on Sunday, prioritising that, was probably Finlay Curtis starting the game. But Rangers eschewing Europe for kind of domestic success is it's antithetical, but it's a chance to win major trophies, and it's a major trophies racket, isn't it? For some folk think winning the SPFL Premiership equates to anything we can do in Europe, other than I mean the fact that winning the SPFL Premiership probably equates to what Celtic have done tonight. Getting out of a group stage for an SPFL Premiership team, winning the league at home. I've said barely matches, getting through one knockout. So Celtic, that could be champions again after what they've done tonight. It's a weird one. Lots of empty seats at Dodragao tonight. No kind of Subway loyal, as I've heard from Andy, who's a absolute legend of this pod. He's heading over there, and I think Porto is hit by all sorts of rainstorms this week after me recommending it to everybody. Is it the lovely place? When I tried to go back there for a holiday, the ground staff at EasyJet were on strike, and now the Subway staff are on strike apparently over there. But there was no Subway loyal tonight, as it's on strike. But a few empty seats in the stand facing the cameras. And the battle of the April 1989 births between the two managers born after I'd been out drinking for about 4 years. Both born in April 1989, the opposing managers. I see they've installed some track lighting round Dodragao since I was there back in 2005. And is that change kit the best choice? Is that change kit the best choice for Rangers? The charcoal and the grey. We don't have a lot of luck in that kit. It's not that. Is that the one we wore in Bruges as well? We should never really wear it again, to be quite honest. But it was. I think we should have went with the orange. I know Jack Button was wearing orange tonight, but stick him in the charcoal, kind of grey kit. We wore red. Was it red? I think it was red top and shorts with white socks when we drew one each other in the 2019-20 Europa League group stage, and we wore all white change kit when we played there in the 2005-2006 Champions League, and we wore the home kit at De Santas in the 83-84 Cup Winners' Cup, because that was a kind of spell where European competition was doing this thing of, if there was a colour clash, the home team wore their away kit. But so this is a fourth different kit we've worn against Porto. And Porto, they went straight through on our goal after about 20 seconds and wanted a penalty. Jaden Magoma chasing back, tracking back, and tackling Gomez. They broke straight away on our lame, kind of weak-ass attempt to attack from kick-off. We got quite comfy over the next 5 minutes, though, and in the 6th minute, just Tav comes piling down there from centre half, right centre half, and intercepts a ball that was getting played up towards our halfway line. He gets there ahead. Tav's just so fast, and he gets in ahead of the Porto attacker, and he plays it up to Finlay Curtis, who's a beautiful spin. The ball touches the bottom, his hand He touches his hand as he totally spins his man brilliantly, young Finlay Curtis in that right wing, but his hand couldn't be in a more natural position than it was when he spun, and he plays a fantastic ball, young Finn, right over to the back post area where up comes the towering, colossal Mauritanian lighthouse, JD GASSAMA, and he's probably just at the edge of the 6-yard box in line with the back post, and the man who scored our only goal of our first European away game this season against Panathinaikos in Athens. He's scored their first goal in this group stage away, that was as well, at Graz, to Sturm Graz. He scores the first goal in our last European away game of the season. JD Gassman nods it down, and the goalkeeper and the centre half get kind of a wee bit tangled up, slightly getting each other's way, and the ball bounces in off the centre half. It just kind of glances his arm, just gets into the bottom. We've scored. That's it. It just cruises into the net. 1-0 to Rangers after 6 minutes, and this manager, this Danny Rowe, can't do no wrong. 9 to 10 minutes, Iberxonia is ringing out from the stands. I don't know where our fans are this time. I was behind the goal when I was there. And the last time we were there in the Europa League, and we're up the top deck of one of the kind of stands down the side. I don't know where the Bears were sitting tonight. We could hear them loud and clear at that point in time. Free kick we had into their box leads to a kind of long Tav shy into their box. Manny Fernandez is up there for the flick on, causing a bit of confusion. I've watched Porto's highlights this season, and they've scored a lot of late goals in the group stage. They entered at the group stage of the Europa League, but they scored against Nice in a matter of seconds when they beat Nice 3-0 at home. So we've survived a very, very early first minute scare, and then we've just taken it to them. 15 minutes before they got a shot off, Samu sails one wildly over the bar from the edge of the box. I mean, could we just stop the record run of European away defeats tonight? We're on 5. Come into this on the back of 5, a club record equaling one of 5 straight defeats away from home in Europe. If we lose this one, we're going to create a new Rangers record. So the way we're playing this, they can hardly get a shot on goal. Porto, we're cruising. It's going to be fine. 19th minute, Diamande skills in a tight space, wins a free kick. Magoma and Tav, a wee routine over the ball. Fails to cause any real trouble. We just put the ball basically straight out of play. But it shows another little Scott Fry twists. Their new set-piece coaches, the old kind of fake take. Magoma motioning as if he's going to take the free kick. And it moves the Porto defence around. It changes the angle. God, we're so sophisticated. 23rd minute, Porto do the same thing to us, though. Free kick from deep in our half. It's a move that ends up offside, but they work us quite hard. These 36-year-old coaches, could be a chess match, could be a draw, kind of vacuum-packed tactical standoff. 25th minute, Porto in our box. Samu's kind of pinning Tav. He's up hassling James Tavernier deep in his own box, and practically towards the byline. Tav just kind of manages to turn them. He slips the ball up to Big Chermiti, who's facing his own goal, and he's inside the box. He's 18-yard line. He's 17 yards from his own goal. Packed with Porto players. Hods the ball up, hods the guy off, turns him, sends the ball up the park. We're away. We're looking just not only are we playing great football, but we are so absolutely cool. 27th minute, Porto equalise. Rodrigo Mora, and about 2 yards quicker than us, someone else gets done in the centre circle. There's Nico Raskin gets done by Rodrigo Mora, who, I don't know if it's Raskin doing this thing that the tactical experts are saying he's inclined to do, which has been a bit too reactive. Is it John Walker, who does the tactical videos, absolutely brilliant analysis of him, saying he tends to be too reactive. He'll dive into tackles. I don't know if he had much choice here, but he's about 2 yards off it. This fella just turns him inside out, and somebody, I'm assuming it's Diamande, just in front of him. He's been done by a Porto player. I don't know who it was. I can't rewind it and all that. I don't have a recording of the game because it was on the old red button. But he slips the ball inside to Mora by being 2 yards ahead of the game from Diamande. And that's time they're on the break. They play the ball. They take a ball. I think it's maybe Pepe that played the ball inside to Mora. He turns Raskin easily. He's away. He works it out to the right hand side, and despite Magoma kind of intercepting a couple of times, getting slight touches on the ball to try and stop the momentum of this move, they just play the ball across a packed kind of 6-yard box, and in comes Mora, knowing exactly where he needs to be. I don't know, is it barely 6 yards out? Really easy finish for him, but our defence, as packed as it is into that box, just doesn't know what's happening. One each, 29th minute. 3 minutes later, 2 minutes later, never mind the time. Never mind the time, son. Note the date. Said, William McIlvanney telling these stories about great things that happened. William McIlvanney, who famously had that conversation with Arthur Hopcraft, talking about speaking to Alf Ramsey. Arthur, I don't even know what the documentary was. It was William McIlvanney talking to people about McIlvanney on football, the TV version, and he talks to Arthur Hopcraft, the author of The Football Man, who is also the screenwriter for Tinker Tailor Soldiers by the BBC adaptation, and one of the great anecdotes of William McIlvanney. I keep saying William, it's Hugh McIlvanney. I read all his brother's books as well. I know, but it's Hugh McIlvanney, obviously the great football journalist, and Hugh McIlvanney talks about that time as George Best scored a goal at Old Trafford, and somebody in the press box going, what minute was that? What minute did he score? Never mind the minute, son. Check the date. Just take a note of the date. Same thing tonight with Manny Fernandez with that tackle he put in the box. Absolutely world class. Tav being totally outstripped for pace by Pepe from the halfway line. Pepe's zooming into the box. Tav can't catch him. He's about to pull the trigger, say, 8-9 yards out from goal. And in comes Manny Fernandez with probably the best tackle I've ever seen from a Rangers player in the box, winning the ball cleanly. Certainly, he has to slide. It's inevitable. There's going to be a bit of follow through for big Manny to get there in time, but he controls the ball perfectly between Pepe's feet. He contacts the ball perfectly between Pepe's feet. Just a fraction of kind of daylight opens up between Pepe's feet, but the ball still very much at his feet. This tackle is calibrated like a Swiss watch, timed like a Swiss watch. Kevin Thelwell may yet be suing for wrongful dismissal, but perhaps it's just the defence in court would be, Danny Rule could make anybody into a class player. What a tackle. George Young, Willie Woodburn, John Gregg, Ronnie McKinnon, Terry Butcher, Richard Goff, Davy Weir. None of them would have to go to ground to make that kind of tackle, but I think they'd be very proud to make the tackle that Manny Fernandez made, and it's just even the Portuguese opponents just appeal for a penalty and a red card. But no, it's a fantastic, one of the best tackles I've ever seen. Brilliant, and we are obviously up for the battle. We are a match for Porto. It's 2-1. It's 2-1 to Porto. I think it's the 36th minute. Après moi la deluge. We'd had 5 clean sheets across 2 different competitions coming into this game, and once we ended the clean sheet run, we take to conceding goals like a duck to the very, very wet streets of a major city in the northwest of the Iberian Peninsula. All Porto from the moment they equalise until the moment they get their second goal. They're dominating us, and I thought we were kind of dealing with it well enough until James Tavernier is again struggling for pace. He's backtracking, but he is ahead. He's ahead of his man. Is it Francisco Moura? They knock a ball from the diagonal from one side of the pitch over right into the box to the far corner of the box. Just, I don't know, inside the 18-yard box, maybe 10, 12 yards out on the angle, and Tav's heading to it, and Moura just outstripping him for pace. So out comes Jack Butland at the very last minute, but at that point, Tav's worked up such a head of steam, and he's kind of holding Moura off. I think he gets there, but he's worked up such a head of steam that he can't really pass it back. He's going to get too close to Butland, and Butland is coming out to get it, and Tav's kind of shielding it, but he's going to have to make contact with Butland, and he goes in there, and Butland comes out and seems to be doing their smothering the ball, and then Tav's kind of looking, and you see the action replays right behind the goal. Tav's looking down into Butland's lap basically, and at his stomach, looking to see the body like a fly half or whatever it is at a rock, just wanting to recycle the ball, and we can all see that the ball's actually popped out like the proverbial bar of soap, and it's gone up and just bobbled over Jack Butland. And the clash, the impact of the clash between our captain and his vice captain has spooned the ball up, so it's like basically a yard from goal, and Moura's got nobody in front of him. Manny Fernandez makes a valiant attempt to get there, but he just taps the ball over. Does he even look at it as he's tapping the ball over the line. The sight of Tav looking about to see where the ball is when it's in the back of the net is quite. I think it's maybe Tav's last ever European game. Maybe Tav's last ever European game, and I'm absolutely devastated if that's how he's going to end it with that little moment. But I feel as if it's more Butland's fault, if I'm going to be honest with you. He could have been quicker off his line, and when he comes out, he's got to take Tav out the game while he wins that ball, while he grabs a hold of it. It's just a goalkeeper coming out and grabbing the ball. It's a basic. So not nice, not nice. And this is the first time Porto have scored more than one versus us at home. Fourth time. Lucky for them, the fourth home game against Rangers. It comes, of course, after we take the lead in Porto for the first time in 4 visits. Tav's last ever European game, I say, not fair. I think this is on Butland, if it is. Porto score 3 against us for the first time, home or away, in meeting number 7 with Pepe, the original Pepe. He scored 2 goals against us at Ibrox in the Champions League in 2005, but we beat him 3-2 that night. It's 3-1 to Porto, as I say, after 41 minutes to get the third goal. The commentator's clearly a Celtic or a Hibs or an Aberdeen fan. Jamie Lyle of TNT. He's just loving it. He's like, Rangers are a disaster. There's a real kind of relish in his voice. He's working for TNT, but also I've heard him on BBC and that recently as well. Seems quite new in the scene. I'm just doing that bitter football thing, fan thing of like, if anybody mentions a goal scored against you, you get raging thinking they totally hate your team and all that. I'm paying money for this. Why should I have to listen to this kind of stuff? Well, there's a big thing, but he does like mock the weak, mock the weak, mock the strong, as a proper comedian once said. Frankie Boyle, his team of writers that he gets on mock the week. Frankie Boyle used to do that when he did that. It was it's not his partner. It's just you'll have seen the footage. He says later on, Jamie Lyle, commentator doing his job. Probably staunch, probably total Rangers fan, and he's just trying to compensate for that. But you'll have seen him. You'll have seen the footage doing the rounds of Joe Cole and Ali and Cole, reacting to the Benfica goalie scoring against the Benfica goalkeeper. Did the Benfica goalkeeper score against Real Madrid? Did he? Just go and say Bants, you're dying to say great banter, aren't you? You sell out, But don't try and tell us as if it's gone democratically viral, that clip. TNT obviously pumped that fake moment straight into the singularity, like Elon Musk feeds racism and misogyny into Twitter just so he can get richer. But if you're happy with that, Jamie, then I don't mind you describing, obviously a Rangers man like yourself, describing the fact that Emi Fernandez, the great defender, scores an own goal to put Porto 3-1 up. It was a corner to Porto in the 41st minute. Fernandez lets, what's the guy's name, Bednarek, the kind of number 5, the Porto defender who the GASSAMA's goal kind of seemed to glance off on its way into the back of the net. He gets there first to the front post. The ball goes to the front post, and I think it's in an effort to kind of retrospectively win the aerial duel. Fernandez tries to get his head back over Bednarek's, so he's actually heading towards his own goal, and he comes off his head and goes straight into the near post. Gets straight in. And could Jack Butland have got there? He's probably a bit helpless with that amount of physicality about. He certainly makes a move towards the general area, but I don't see how he can get past his own centre half. Really, not a lot he could do about that one. So we're into the 3 minutes of first half injury time before we finally get some kind of possession and interplay around their box. Porto, the usual mix of pretty boys and thuggish looking kind of jailbird types. Just a proper European football side. Really, they're just so fast, so streetwise, so well organised. This is pretty easy for them. At half time, I want Asgard and Moore to come on. We need to give Porto something to think about in their own half to keep them away from ours. Since we had that little spell, right up to maybe the first quarter of an hour, they just destroyed us for the next half hour, right up to half time. We'd very little. I'm thinking Finlay Curtis isn't getting on the ball. Gassama's not getting on the ball. There's just not enough going on up front. We can't get out our own half. So I'm thinking we need to get more. I mean, this is the kind of problem when people are saying this game isn't important, because we're already out of the tournament. You end up having something inflicted on you in these games that you're not properly concentrating on, that none of your subsequently more important games can eradicate or expunge the memory of. You get a total tanking. We could get an absolute thumping if Porto continue. So it's been a while since. So I'm like just going to get some attackers. I'm going to get Asgard and Moore on. We need to start playing in their half. That's the best form of defence. But instead we bring on John Souttar for Jaden Magoma. Tav goes to right wing back. Aarons goes to left wing back. It's no punishing any of the potential blamees for the goals we conceded in the first half. It's just rotating the squad. Danny Rose obviously only want to rotate the squad. I mean, who needs rest like Jaden Magoma? Fair play, he's been playing endlessly, Jaden Magoma. So we're resting him up for Sunday. I take it Todd Ramans isn't fit yet. And who needs minutes in the legs like John Souttar? We need to get minutes into John Souttar's legs. That's fine. But I mean, it does get Tav away from the centre half area. But 50th minute, Max Aarons gets booked for a fantastically awful dive. He's just so late, it's so far away from his would-be assailant that he deserves the booking. He actually deserves a bouquet of flowers. No, that's a fantastic dive. 50th minute, but we don't get the penalty. But you're noticing that we've not had any kind of panic yet in the first 5 minutes of the half. 57 minutes, Aarons drives down the left. He's on his wrong side, obviously, and he hits a cracking ball to the front post, but gets cut out for our first corner of the night, almost an hour into the game. It results in Porto breaking on our goal, and Jack Butland just gets there first. They're going to be winning all the foot races. Porto, 58th minute, we start making the subs, more subs. Fernandez, Big Emmy Fernandez goes off. On comes the lesser spotted Oliver Antman. Jerry Gassama goes off, and on comes Majowski. So I'm trying to work this out. I think Antman goes to the right hand side. Finlay Curtis, he goes to the left hand side, and it's Majowski. I think we go to 4-4-2 basically, and Majowski's playing up front with Chermiti, so it gives a bit more solidity to protect. We're just four at the back. We're just going four at the back. So that gives a bit more solidity of having four in midfield in front of that. But Rule obviously doesn't give a monkey's about anything other than rotating the squad. That's too German for my liking. This could be an absolute... Like West Germany, I know he's an East German, and he'll remember, obviously, West Germany beating... West Germany losing to East Germany. The only time they played the DDR West Germany was the 1974 World Cup final. It was in Hamburg and they lost the game. But it meant that they avoided the tougher group. It was their last first round group game, but they had two groups in those days. That was the set up in the World Cup, and it made it into a slightly easier second round group. West Germany, which were already guaranteed to go through, East Germany went into the harder second round group, but they refused to have a rematch, so they won their only clash, the two Germanys. So it was seen as being, and they won the World Cup. That's fine. They also get stuffed 8-3 by Hungary in the 1954 World Cup. West Germany, they get stuffed 8-3 in the first round group because they thought they were going to get to the final. Sepp Herberger knew they were going to get to the final. So let's go and kick a few Hungarians, inflict a few injuries, put the reserves out there though, mostly, so they don't know what we're all about. And of course, Hungary only lost one match. The Golden Squad only lost one match in 6 years, and it was a World Cup final in which they were 2-0 up after 8 minutes to that West Germany side. So maybe that's the German thinking, but I don't want to see us getting beat 8-3 off this Porto. Antman just keeps giving the ball away. Oliver Antman keeps getting it. It's fine. He's going to be rusty, isn't he? Hasn't he played for a while? He's not getting the first team football after that injury as well. But so far, it's got the feeling that all the football might have been played. And the thought that was it. It was all played out. I don't know if there's been some kind of unstated agreement between the two 36-year-old managers whose birthdays are in April. I don't think so. This could... Porto could score 2 or 3 more anytime they put their mind to it. So we're on the verge of taking a total doing. 63rd minute. Raskin has a shot that's saved by Diogo Costa. He's a shot from outside the box. Looks like it's heading for the bottom corner. Good save, but their goalkeeper Tav has a couple of shots at putting it in. He puts the corner in, then it gets pushed back out, and we recycle it from out in the wing. But he ends up having to foul Rodrigo Mora in their half because it's out in the wing, and he's going to get in front of Tav, and he's going to be away. So Tav is, a quick study. He just fouls the guy up there. This is from Rangers corners, but just the second we lose the ball, they are primed to rip us in two. 68th minute, Samu goes off. Their top scorer for Deniz Gül, who's the Swedish-born Turkish international striker. So it's not as if they're replacing him with rubbish. But we saw at least Samu didn't score against us. That's a win. 70th minute, we take off Chermiti and Curtis bring on Mikey Moore and Thello Asgard. So I think Moore goes up front alongside Majowski, or is it right wing? At one point I thought Antman was going to right wing back and Tav was pushing into the midfield, but I think it was just a particular passage of play. We're very fluid. Asgard went out wide left, but obviously inside Aarons when Aarons is overlapping. People know that, Alec. 72nd minute, Antman. Is he at right wing? I don't know, but he does great to hit the byline. And cross to the back post. Aarons heads it back across the 6-yard box, and then Majowski gets up. He's in the middle of the 6-yard box, but he heads it back towards Aarons because you can see Tav is coming, and he's even closer to goal. And Tav goes up, and Diogo Costa, the captain and goalkeeper of Porto, takes him out. But Antman then wins us another corner, and suddenly he looks really sharp all around. So that's a bonus. It's showing the intelligence of Danny Rule. He's just quite right. His cold, calculating style is absolutely right. We'll have Antman available for Easter Road probably and ready to play. But somehow Diogo Costa is the one that's needing some treatment. All this knowing that 4-1 is a proper pasting. We just need to concede one more goal and it's a proper pasting. We're just one mistake away from that. Like the mistake we have in the 77th minute when Giga kind of out in the touchline. Plenty of space, plenty of time, just over to the left, going over towards the stand that goes down the side on the left hand, on his left hand side. There's Porto players approaching him, but he just gets into an absolute state, and then Jack Butland comes out his goal to come out and try and help him, to try and give him an out ball, and just the whole thing ends up with John Suter having to play the ball across his own empty, totally exposed goal out the other side for a throw in to Porto out the other side. I definitely prefer us attacking, and our favourite commentator is really revelling in the fact this is how Rangers have been defending earlier this season. He wants it to have been all season. He wants to write off Danny Rule's improvement to this team, but I might be taking that a bit. He's probably staunch. He probably played for Rangers as a young man. You know, his dad's probably a legend for Rangers. The TNT commentator. I'm just being bitter. 80th minute, we break on them. How do you like it, Porto? Antman does well, but just misses Majowski with a really poor pass when we have their defence backtracking. It's just corner to Porto in the 81st minute. Mikey Moore at the front post. He flicks it across his own goal. Back flick across his own goal. They put it back across goal, and it turns out it's offside or there's a foul or something like that. But in the process, Jack Butland just wipes out Mikey Moore for his troubles. I think he's probably learned his lesson from the first half as well. Take no prisoners. Doesn't matter if it's your own player. Wipe them out. 84th minute, we've got good pressure around about their box, but we can't quite get a shot away. And of course, the next thing they're in our box, teeing up a fourth goal. But Max Aarons, because that applied just enough backtracking pressure to put them off, and I think Giga gets in there and gets a partial block as well, and Jack Butland saves quite easily. We're negotiating that razor's edge between making a fist of it and getting properly fisted. The 88th minute, Tav concedes a corner at the back post as they break and just sweep the ball right across the front of our goal. Butland has taken a punch save, the actual corner. It lands at the feet of a Porto player who, for some reason, misses. I mean, it would be a shot from the edge of the box, but it looks like a certainty to go in. But I'm just starting to remember that I was slagging the Annan, the referee in our game against Annan in the Scottish Cup for blowing the whistle 3 seconds into injury time when there'd been like 15 substitutions in the second half. I'm basically hoping that this referee does the same thing. Just call it now, mate. Just call it now. I'll take 3-1. I'll lick your hand for 3-1. 90th minute, Giga plays the ball back to Giga turns, he just plays the ball back to think. He just turns around, he's at the halfway line or something. He just turns around, he just plays the ball back to. There's nobody there. There's just nobody there. The next person behind him is Jack Butland, and he just plays the ball out to. It's like a ball, like a lawn ball. It goes down to about the halfway into our half, and then just drifts out for a shy to Porto, a throw into Porto. There's 3 minutes of injury time and they're going to be long. The 93rd minute though, Mikey Moore gives it away. It's kind of like 92 minutes and 15 seconds or something on the clock. I'm thinking, I'll take 3-1, that's fine. And Mikey Moore gives it away, barely outside his own box, and I'm kind of flapping, I'm panicking, knowing that 3-1 here, when we're patently just rotating the squad, is absolutely fine, but 4-1 is patently just a pasting. But Porto mess it up, and then we mess it up, and then it's a throw into Porto deep in our half, and the guy's cleaning the wet off the ball with his shirt because he's going to launch it, and our defence is wobbling again, so he knows what he's doing, and I'm groaning, but well, he knows what he's doing, and I think you can see a stadium screen with a clock, and he keeps cleaning and drying the ball and looking for teammates making moves that he isn't interested in to receive a ball he's never going to throw, and he's wasted 15 seconds to take us into the 94th minute of the game, and the ref blows dead on the first second of that 94th minute, like the ref of us versus Annan, blowing 3 seconds of injury time. And that's the most apt way to finish a campaign of tortuous morbidity, more tortuous than my morbid obesity. At least I get to enjoy the food, drink and sofa sitting that brings that about. This was just the polar opposite of what we experienced in the 36-team Europa League phase last season, when we won at Malmo and we won at Nice and we drew at Olympiacos and we only lost at Old Trafford in injury time after equalising late on in normal time. That might actually be my favourite memory, that goal for Dessers at Old Trafford. And we beat Union St Gilloise and Stoy Bucharest at home, and we drew a battle of British football and royalty with Tottenham, who went on to win the flipping trophy. They went on to win the Europa League last season, the eventual winner. And we finished 8th in top 8. And on we went to the quarterfinals. Well, this time we finished 32nd. There was only 7 teams above us this time last season. There's only 4 teams below us this season, and we've set a new club record of 6 straight European away defeats. But we did lose by 3 goals at home in last season's Europa League group stage to Lyon, and we've only lost by 3 goals once in this season's Europa League group stage, and that was to Brandbergen. That was away from home, so it's probably much the same. So there is that. Celtic progressing at the fag end of the top 24. I mean, imagine having to play that knockout game. Imagine having to play that knockout playoff game. I mean, how tacky is that? Listen, we had to play the kind of equivalent in the old format when we got all the way to the final in Seville when we beat Dortmund. So it's great fun. It's great fun, and we need to be nice to Celtic because they did us a favour. We did them a favour last week, beating Ludogorets, and they've done us a favour this week, Celtic, by beating Utrecht. If Utrecht had won at Parkhead tonight, we'd have finished. They'd have gone above us, but have finished even lower in this group. So be nice, folks. Obviously, we owe to Celtic, but the Celtic, they progressing initially had us thinking, Celtic are through. That's quite good because they've got an extra couple of games to derail, big games. That's going to stretch their resources and maybe derail them a bit in this tight league title race we've got on just now. But they're either going to play Robbie Keane's Ferencváros. What a shame Ferencváros didn't make the top 8. They beat us, didn't they? So it's last laugh to them. But that'll be a total love-in of all sorts of various kind of connotations to that one there. Martin O'Neill, ex-Republic of Ireland manager. Robbie Keane, Republic of Ireland's the biggest ever goal scorer, and of course Robbie Keane's ex-Celtic, and I think Martin O'Neill's got some sort of Celtic connection. He's the manager just now. That's it. It's going to be that, or it's going to be VfB Stuttgart that they play, and I think they beat Stuttgart on their way to the final in Seville in 2003, didn't they? When Martin O'Neill was the manager. Like I've been promising you for years, troops. Like I've promised you for years now, when a Rangers fan saying, I don't care about Europe, we go to win the league. When we start winning leagues and Celtic eventually go further than us in Europe one season, European progress will become everything again. That will become the big thing. Tav was a loser in 2022. But no one remembers Rangers winning the treble in 2003 because Celtic got to a European final in the same competition in the same city, and they lost it after extra time. We lost it in penalties. This is the part of it, and it was Martin O'Neill kind of underwriting all this stuff back in 2003, and there could be no arguing he's doing a hell of a job with them again. So why? I mean, if Celtic hadn't got rid of Martin O'Neill the first time this season, they'd probably be, I don't know what, 6, 7, 8 points ahead of us just now in the league. So maybe they'll switch tack though to the European thing, emphasising European glory again. Or maybe it won't be that much of a distraction for them. You've got to be careful what you wish for means perhaps getting what you wish for on a perfectly palatable dish. Maybe it'll work out perfectly in Celtic getting through. Maybe make it through a couple of rounds in Europe. It would be fine by us, having been the quarter final just last season. But if they go and if they get too close to like that, as somebody myself who's stating always that it's about Europe, that it's about European glory, but just like a thing, if we win the double and Celtic end up winning the flipping Europa League, that's not going to happen, is it? Aye, an awful campaign, a terrible European campaign. I'm actually glad it's over. As I say, that is its own indictment. I've watched some awful, depressing displays by Rangers this season. I've been at all the home games. 14 European games we've played this season. I say we've lost 9 of them. We've played in the Europa League group stage. You play 8 games in that. We lost 6, drew 1, and won 1. We scored 5 goals and we had 14 put past us. And that's before, but that's in the Europa League group stage. We had the 6 put past us by Bruges, and Bruges as well as putting 3 passes at Ibrox. We'd beaten Panathinaikos in our very first European game this season. Huge club, huge result. Going over there and drawn. We were amazed that we managed to get the result we did against Panathinaikos because they just seemed to miss so many chances. They really needed a kind of Cyril Dessers type striker. But we beat them nevertheless reasonably comfortably in the end in terms of the score, and then we blew away Polzenia, which is probably the performance under Russell Martin. It must be. That was his best performance, but sensational that night. We blew away Polzenia. Polzenia and Panathinaikos both finishing above Celtic as well as ourselves in the qualifying for the Europa League. So decent teams. Bruges doing quite well in the Champions League as well, but what Bruges did to us was just beyond the joke. That it was awful. So relieved that we beat Ludogorets last week. Bruges is the nadir, of course. Joshua Barry talking about that in Rangers Review on Thursday morning, saying I'm banned from saying the word nadir when referring to the Bruges game. But of course, the contrast with last season's UEFA Europa League group stage campaign was absolutely horrible. I think it was just Ibrox seemed kind of desolate. Seemed much colder. The stadium seemed darker and colder. It does get that in European nights because it tends to go into the winter, but the moment Bruges were basically the first minute of the first leg at home to Club Bruges in that Champions League playoff, from then onwards, it was just awful. And it seems almost like the thing that Ibrox was comparatively empty. Only about 37,000 in it last Thursday, and it was raining all day and all that when we got that 1-0 win against Ludogorets. So we just managed to squeeze something out of it in the most kind of depressing mise-en-scène possible for any kind of victory. 3 teams below us have just got 1 point. So thank God we beat Ludogorets last week. So relieved Danny Rule came in and eventually stabilises enough to get that draw with Braga at home, and OGC Nice, our first of our European opponents. They had 1 win but no other points in this Europa League group stage, so they're also below us in the final reckoning in this group. But when you've spent 4 of your kind of 8 group games fearing you'll set new records for lows, for poorest achievements of any club in the Europa League, you have not just an indicator of how much of a state we were under Russell Martin, but you also are forced to reckon with how much of a turnaround there's been under Danny Rule. The unbeaten record in the clean sheets run have been zeroed, and we should use that as a kind of energising, refreshing factor and affect another turnaround in Sunday trips at Easter Road. From losing in Porto to winning in Portobello. Portobello is near enough Leith if you comfy a Drawson. Bye-bye tarnished European glamour. Hello to buffing up that tarnished domestic title-winning Saltire. We have one last European stat for the roads. It's one you probably know. Rangers lost our first 2 European Cup Winners' Cup finals, but we won the third one we played in. We have lost the first 2 UEFA Cup Europa League finals that we played in. We'll be back. We will be back.